All right, guys, I am so excited to have one of my top coaches talking to us today. I can't wait to give her a big hug in just, a week, a little less than a week, actually, for the elite thing, to talk to us today, Diamond and above, about the seasons of coaching. And I think it's really important for us to understand it because, especially when you're in a business that is about fitness, there's highs and lows. And if you can understand that and connect that with the seasons of coaching, you'll know when to push in your business and when to not slow down, but kind of take a little bit of a breather. So I'm excited for Mannie to talk about that. Mannie is a 5-star elite coach for 2015. I know she's going to hit it for 2016 as well. And I'm going to be able to see her get recognized at Summit next year. This week. I can't wait to see. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Mannie. So I'll mute myself and I'll unmute you. So unmute you and then I'll hush.
Awesome. Thanks, Meg. It's so great to be here with you guys. And it's exciting to be able to do a call in the middle of the day because of this opportunity. Like, what other opportunity would allow us to have our kids in our laps, my son upstairs, and be able to know we're doing something awesome for our families and to bring an income in. So first of all, that's exciting in itself. So like Meg said, today I want to talk to you guys about the roller coaster of coaching and the different seasons of coaching. I did a similar call for my team. We did one on the roller coaster, and Abby and I did one on the seasons of coaching just this week. And so I kind of melded together a little bit of the roller coaster and a little bit of the different seasons of coaching, because I think it's super important for us to realize that it's not always going to be summer or spring, and that we can still embrace winter and fall and still succeed in this business. We don't have to leave the state just because there's different seasons. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share. I have a presentation, and then I'm going to kind of talk through it. So just let me know if you could see this. Can you see that? Okay, awesome. So embracing the roller coaster ride and all the seasons of coaching. Okay, so I love, if you guys, I'm going to move you guys just so you could see this. You can see that, right? I love the analogy of the roller coaster ride. So first I'm going to talk about the roller coaster and then the seasons, okay? Because I think it's important to kind of focus on those, the two pair together well. I love some of the things that Darren Hardy, author of The Compound Effect, talks about in the entrepreneur roller coaster book, because he talks exactly about this kind of stuff that we're going to go over today. And that is the emotional roller coaster of startup businesses. So a couple of statistics first. 66% of small businesses fail. I know at first that might seem like a super bleak statistic, and you might be like, well, why am I doing this then? Well, hold up. This is the good news. Most of the reason those businesses fail are not due to external factors. They really aren't. They are due to the internal factors that people present themselves with. And that is specifically the emotional things that come with starting your own business. It's true. It is true. And oftentimes people want to attribute it to something else, but it really is nothing more than the internal factor. Because when you start a business, whether it's a brick and mortar or what we do, there's a lot of ups and downs. There is, with other businesses, there's a lot of capital you have to invest. With our business, at most, we have invested the price of a challenge pack, which was an investment in our health. And the least amount was $39.95. So really, that's like a small price to pay for the opportunity that this business offers us. But even that being the case, the only factor that could help us succeed or fail in this business is really our internal motivation and our internal mindset. So that's what I'm going to kind of go over a little bit. And I like this little visual that I created kind of from the beginning. And I think it's important because no matter where we are in this business, whether we're new coaches or not, obviously we're not necessarily new coaches if we're in here, but I think it's applicable because we all go through the roller coaster rides, whether we've been in it for a year, a month, or 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and it's going to happen. So I think it's worth mentioning. So the beginning is like the initial excitement. right? It's like, think of it like you're on a roller coaster ride. You're like, yes, this is fun. You're strapped in. Then you get to the top. You got your first sale. Let's call it what it is, guys. We sell products that work. There's no shame in that, okay? We sell lifestyle changes, and we sell things that improve people's lives and lengthen their lives. So that's not a bad word. So, that our first sale, our first challenge pack sale. Then we kind of start going, we get to the peak and we start getting our first no's because we're working, we're trying to invite more people. We're excited. We're like, yes, I've got one. Let me invite more. And then we start getting no's and rejection. And then we kind of dip into the valley of doubt. We're like, well, maybe this isn't, I don't know. People are saying no. I've gotten like 5 no's, and then we get discouraged. So then we go, then we kind of start going up, and all of a sudden we think, I'm just going to get no's, and we start getting yeses. And then maybe we hit Success Club, or as we like to call it, Change 3 Lives Club. We've had 3 people who have committed. We're excited because they're as excited as we are, and we're excited to change their lives. So we're inspired again. But then we get into the loop-de-loop and we get a return. Or the challenge group we opened with those awesome 3 people, like, is dead, is dormant. Nobody's posting. So you're like, it must be me. I must suck as a coach. So, so then again, the doubt creeps in again. So then you kind of go back on the bottom and you're down with frustration. But then just when you think things aren't going to look up, you get your first coach perhaps. And then you're like, okay, I got my first coach. And then if you listen to Meg or your upline, you're going to sign up your spouse if you haven't, or your close person in your life. And then you're like, well, heck, now I got my first coach. If it's not my spouse, it's going to be my spouse next because I'm going to hit Emerald. So then you start seeing a vision again. But then you got those 2 coaches and one of them goes inactive. And then you get the idea. Like, not to say it all goes in this absolute chronological order, but it's pretty accurate, really. And we all go through it. I'm sure Meg could attest to this too, whether she, we all go through this, and we're strapped in on the same roller coaster. It's just a matter of when it happens and how often it happens, and it's going to happen. So I love this analogy because when you're strapped into the roller coaster, I know, like, even just using the real analogy of a roller coaster, that excitement is there. But then when you start going up, you're like, oh, I'm kind of scared. And you're like, I don't know what to expect. And then you're kind of like, I want to get off this ride. I don't want to do this, because fear sets in. That's how this business is. Fear sets in. So let me go on to the next slide. So here's the thing then. But you bought the golden ticket, right? Because you're there. You're like, I'm in. So you got to decide what kind of coach you want to be. An all-in coach or a, kind of sort of coach. And I really like this too. Like, you got to get your seatbelt on. You got to hang on. You got to turn the fear into excitement and unlock your potential and seize the opportunity. And remember, if you're settling for the half ticket, nothing changes if nothing changes. And then you repeat the same actions, you're going to get the same results. So even though it's scary, when we are on this roller coaster ride, and sometimes we're like, I don't want to do this anymore, we have to remember we're strapped in, we can weather this, we totally got this, and it's part of the ride. I love thinking of it that way. So that's kind of, hopefully, I like visuals, I like analogies, and I think that way in pictures. And so hopefully you'll remember that. I think sometimes people think that it's all like, whatever, in the analogy of a roller coaster, smooth, either smooth or going up, or, your hands are up in the air, you're going down, you're excited. It's not always like that. And, it's not always going to be like that with the business. But that doesn't mean that it's not a fun ride. It just means that it's part of the roller coaster. And I think once we accept, and I remind myself this as much because I realize here we're all leaders on this call. But so I'm speaking to myself as much as I'm sharing with you guys. I have to remind myself this all the time. It's still a roller coaster. No matter how many times you've ridden the roller coaster, there's still going to be unexpected things that happen. And sometimes you're going to feel differently. Some days you're going to feel sick to your stomach. And some days you're going to be like, what was I thinking getting on this roller coaster? Whereas maybe the week before you're like, this is the funnest thing on the planet. Okay. So I just want you to always remember the roller coaster ride, and not to forget that if you bought your ticket, you've invested, and you could stick it out, because there's good and fun stuff happening at the end of the line if you stay strapped in. So during this training, I want to go over just the importance of developing thick skin. This is something I always remind myself and my team as well, and my new coaches and older coaches. We need to understand that judgments, rejections, no's are going to happen, and we need to just kind of brush it off. We want to learn how to get equipped for that ride, how to strap in, take off, and survive the roller coaster ride of coaching versus just being like, I'm out of here, I'm jumping. It doesn't matter, I'm done. You don't want that. Also, to focus on building our confidence and checking our ego at the gate. And we have to realize, and I want us to kind of realize by the end of this, is that we will make mistakes, but we can be consistent, and we can turn failures into strengths and successes. And then helping weather the different seasons of coaching, which is the element that I've added to this training. So first, I'm going to give you guys, you might have heard this. I like this because I think it plays a role in our seasons and how we feel about this business. And I hear this a lot. Like, you either have people who are supportive in your life with coaching, or you sometimes don't, or somewhere in between. So I think that plays a role sometimes on how people feel when they're on the emotional roller coaster ride of coaching. So I want to go ahead and just talk about that for a second. I loved this story. So the story of the crab is that, whenever people set up traps to capture crabs, they put bait in there and they go into a hole, the crabs fall in, they eat the bait, and then they're stuck in there. But the crazy thing is that the crabs can actually crawl out. And what people notice is that many times when the bait is all gone, the crabs are still sitting there because they're just so comfortable in that trap, in that little space. Even though the food is gone, they're just comfortable. But then one tries to make a break for it. One tries to crawl out. And then the other ones are like, oh no. Like, they're stagnant. They're stagnant all along. Everybody's like, whatever, we're done with our food. We're just going to sit here. But as soon as one tries to get out, the other ones try to pull them in. And it's actually a proven thing. You can Google it. That's what they do. These crabs are trying to pull the other crabs back down because they're like, you're not getting out, even though they don't want to get out, they're pulling them in. So I want you to think of, the roller coaster ride of coaching sometimes being, you encountering those crabby people in your life. And sometimes, unfortunately, they could be people that are close to you. And I think, again, acknowledging that just helps us better equip. It doesn't mean you have to say peace out to them, but it just means be prepared, and perhaps that can help you weather the storms. So I'm just kind of covering different things that might apply to people, because I think this is something that definitely plays a role sometimes in how people see this business. So why, so when we're on this ride and we're trying to better ourselves, right? And if you've been in this for a while, you've probably seen this. You might see extreme support. You might see, total indifference. You might see negativity or haters. It's somewhere in between. So you might see that. That's part of the roller coaster ride. Okay. And why do those crabby people, why do people sometimes try to hold us back as we're trying to advance in our lives, to better ourselves? Well, because we're their mirror and they're not ready to change and they feel bad about themselves. And again, this has a lot to do with, because this is all emotional. This is like a big part of what I try to remind my coaches is like, don't let someone else's reflection of themselves, determine what you're going to do with this business. And oftentimes if they really dig and think about it, it's like, yeah, come to think of it, something someone said did kind of knock me off my horse, and so maybe that's going on. And that can make you feel like, oh, this ticket is not meant for me, or I'm not meant to be on this roller coaster ride, or whatever. But just remember that if people in your life are doing that, or you've encountered that, whether it's friends or whoever, they're scared of you changing sometimes. They're scared of us changing and bettering ourselves. And sometimes, unfortunately, misery loves company. And sometimes they think they're trying to protect us because, God forbid, we should do something different. That's a network marketing, something that's not traditional. And maybe they've seen mistakes we've made. And they're like, well, do you remember that one time, thinking people are being supportive? And they love you. So it's not all bad, but I just don't want you to mistake, or sometimes, and I didn't add this, maybe there's just silence. Maybe you're like, hey, I hit this big goal, and it took you a while to tell them. And then they're like, oh, okay, so what are you having for dinner? Or, that kind of thing. And then you might be like, really? So just just know that it's okay for it to be like, ugh, this stinks, but it doesn't mean that it should take you off your course. If that's happening, super important, because oftentimes when we change, when we better ourselves, and this business is a business of bettering ourselves in every facet possible, it brings out people's own insecurities or people's own, and I'm not even going to say deficiencies, because I believe this business can help us fix deficiencies, their own inabilities, not inabilities, but their lack of desire to want to change. Okay. So I think that sometimes is more evident when someone around them is willing to do something more. And so anyway, so sometimes we can mistake that as, well, it must not be meant to be. And if you're one of those people that really values people's opinions, which don't we all, right? It could really kind of, make you feel again like this isn't for me. So I just kind of wanted to cover this on the front end because I think it's super important, as it plays a role in how we perceive our business and the growth of our business every day. So if there's any teachers, or whether you're not a teacher or not, I love the fill your buckets analogy, how to survive and thrive through the many seasons and, roller coasters of coaching. You got to fill your bucket. Okay. You got to fill your bucket. We've talked about this many times, and like, how many times do we are in the business of filling, sorry, it's small. I'll read it. The business of filling other people's buckets, right? We're like filling people's coaches' buckets and challenges buckets and our kids' buckets, and sometimes our bucket's empty. So how do we fill our bucket? Personal development. And I'm going to share this PowerPoint too, if you want, with Meg too, if she wants to attach it to this recording too. Visualize your why. Okay, you hear this a lot, but you could use that as your vision. What do you want to see with your vision for your life in general? Not just financially with this business, but just how do you want your life to be? Visualize that. And, and fill those buckets. Fill that bucket by thinking about those positive things you want to see. Plug into training calls. I always tell my team, if you're going to pick something, pick a couple of things. There's not going to be a bajillion ones you have to. I know we are a team that, and we're fortunate to have an amazing network. Our team, Meg and Janelle and my team, anybody that's under here is blessed to have amazing resources, really. So there's never a shortage of training. But I always tell my team, if you're going to plug into something, get the podcast on your phone or the National Wake Up Call. I've done that recently too. It's so much easier. You press a button and you listen to the replay if you can't listen to it live. Those are like amazing game changer calls. I'm like, pick a training, whether it's like, Meg's or Janelle's, or, I tell my team training on Monday, pick a training that you connect with a team. So you feel like you're not on an island, plug into training calls. It doesn't have to be 20, just pick a couple. So you're connected. Keep it simple with the 4 vital behaviors now, not 3. Personal development, product of the product, inviting, and recognition as you have a team, whether you have 1 coach or 30 or 50, whatever. And then support your team. And I use that interchangeably with supporting your challengers. It doesn't just have to be a bajillion coaches. It's just challengers, your team, etc. But then prepare for holes in your bucket. Sorry, this is so small, guys. The holes in your bucket are, and I love, because I'm going to go into this next. Oh, I like this part. So fitness and nutrition slumps. Okay. No's and rejection, self-doubt and fear, returns and cancellations, like home direct accounts, okay, distractions. I'm too busy. I've got my kid in this sport and this sport. Stuff is going to happen. Okay. So prepare for holes in your bucket and prepare to fill them up. So, just remember that they're going to happen. And if you're prepared for them and you're prepared to like, not just be like, well, there goes that bucket, when those holes, have the little cement ready to plug it in, be like, all right, cool. I fell off my nutrition and fitness. Hey, I got the best tools at my disposal. I'm going to start over. Don't just be like, well, it's a hole. What are you going to do? No's and rejections. I'm just going to stop asking. No, you don't stop. You keep going. Self-doubt and fear. And I'll cover the different areas of progress. So, okay. So this is the area, this is the season part. So the first part was like the roller coaster and just kind of knowing it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I don't know if you're anything like me. I like to be one of those Me Too people. Like I told my coaches this, I'm like, sometimes I just like to know that I'm not the only one who feels like that. It's just something reassuring about that when I'm like, I totally feel like I sucked today, or I totally feel like whatever might be that thing you're going through. And sometimes you got to tell somebody versus like internalize it. And then you start thinking you're the only person who feels that way. And then you're like, I really do suck, you know? So if you're one of those Me Too people, like that's just a little side note, tell somebody. I'm not saying wallow in the pond of pity. I'm saying just go and tell people, hey, I feel like this. Does anybody ever feel like this? I just need, and sometimes I've said this in groups I'm in with Meg, I just need somebody to tell me that I'm not the only one who feels like this today. And then I'm like, okay, good, you know? And then you snap out of it. So just realize that, you know, sharing and, you know, saying that, you know, you struggle in an area too sometimes, but then being willing to move forward past that after you've shared is super important. If you're one of those Me Too people, like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not an alien. This is good. So, so I love this part, you guys. So the 4 areas of progress that, you know, I talked to on my team call this past week too, is, you know, we talked about the before and afters, the before, the middle, and afters, or the work in progress. And what I noticed is the people who stick it out, and the reason I've stuck it out is because you don't assume that you stop comparing yourself to other people's progress. Okay. You hear this all the time, but more than that, you just realize that you know, everybody's journey is similar. It's just that some people might be further than you are, but everybody started pretty much the same way and everybody's on the same journey. And like Abby and I have said to our team, it's like, it doesn't matter who finishes first. The person who wins is the person who sticks in it the longest. That's it. That's all there is to it. So, so with that, the 4 areas of progress are physical consistency, and I'll get into financial growth, which I'll share something with you guys too, business consistency and mindset consistency. And so the physical consistency, I think oftentimes people will, like going back to the bucket, will start their journey and will either rock a program for a while, and then something will happen and they'll fall off. And then they just, you know, they just stop working out, stop drinking their Shakeology. And then we see a direct correlation between that. I've seen it, I'm sure you've seen it, and the confidence in the business. Because if you stop, I'm not talking about having 6-pack abs to feel confident. I mean, that's great. But if you're a work in progress, if you're getting back on that horse and you're like, I'm going to use my work, I'm going to drink my Shakeology, use my containers, I'm going to be consistent, you started seeing a correlation between you feeling credible as a coach. So that physical consistency is so key, and realizing that progress takes time. You know, Meg lost her baby weight in like crazy amounts of fast time because I believe she had Shakeology in her life, just as a side note. But if I were to compare, and she's disciplined, of course, and worked out. But I'm just saying, like, you know, I could look at that and say, man, it took me 3 years to lose 90 pounds, but I'm not. You see what I mean? Like, you have to look at, I still lost it. And I remind people the same thing. I'm like, everybody's journey is different. As long as you're making progress, you're making strides. So I just think sometimes the physical consistency is where people get tripped up. They start and they don't see weight loss fast enough, if that's the goal, or whatever physical goals they have. They don't see it fast enough, or they start a program and they don't finish it. And they're like, well, that's not working, so I'm going to try this. And then they wonder why stuff isn't working, you know? And then it's easy to be like, well, look how far this person's come, you know? And again, we start comparing. So it's that gap in the middle that we miss sometimes, you know, like the example I just gave you guys, the gap for me was like 3 years. I'm still a work in progress. I'm 10 pounds heavier than I was 2 years ago now, probably muscle too, but you know what I mean? I'm not going to be like, I suck, you know, it happens, you know, but I know what I need to do to get back to that and better, you know? So, you know, but you just got to look at that gap and ask yourself if you're moving forward, instead of saying, well, this person, it took this person this short amount of time to lose or to improve or to gain confidence, and look at me, look where I'm at. You just have to look at yourself and ask yourself, I'm all about self-evaluation. Ask yourself, am I using the programs? I know it sounds like super elementary that I'm saying this, but I promise you it's not. This business comes down to the elementary basic things. That is it. That is it. So I always ask myself when I feel a certain way, am I using this consistently? Am I using my containers, my color-coded containers faithfully, or am I fudging it? Am I drinking my Shakeology every day, or am I telling everybody else to drink it? Oh, whoops, I skipped 2 days. All right, you got to be honest with yourself. And then you've got to ask yourself what's worked before that clearly is going to work again if you do it. So that's really as simple as it gets. And then the other part with that is share that journey. Of course we know share our journey, but share the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then in between too. And if you fell off, I know Meg is big on this. She's always encouraged me to do that. Share that. When she broke her wrist, she shared that. When I twisted my ankle, I shared that. When I, ate a bag of chips, I share. You got to show you're not an alien, that you're a human being, and then pull people in to support you as well as part of that physical consistency. So that doesn't mean you're a robot and you're perfect. That just means you're being consistent with saying, I want to be a champion of change and I want to improve my life and health. And that means I'm going to have setbacks. So that's you saying that as a coach. And that helps other people realize, well, heck, if they could have setbacks, I can have setbacks. And let's pay attention to what this person's doing, So, and I'll get into the financial thing, but I want to go ahead and go to, I love this quote. You're allowed to be both a masterpiece and a work in progress simultaneously. I love that because I think sometimes we think we have to be all or nothing. We're either a work in progress with flat abs and, six-pack abs that I've been trying to work on for the last 4 years, and I look at pictures and I'm like, I could see a shadow like 2 years ago. Now I don't, or you could just be like, you know what? It's okay. My legs are stronger. I got more muscle. I could do pull-ups. I couldn't do them before. You got to look at how far you've come and while you're honest, brutally honest with yourself and say, look, if I want this, this is what I need to do. Again, I focus on the physical because you guys as coaches, we are walking billboards of why people want to join our team and our bandwagon of these products work. So we're always reevaluating and tweaking and saying, okay, this is what worked before. This is what I need to do better again. And then realizing that it's okay to still call ourselves a masterpiece while we're a work in progress, while we're painting our canvas. So I just wanted to show this to you guys. Maybe some of you guys have seen it on my wall. Elisa actually inspired me to, I did it through that awesome app she suggested. And I did this for my team, so I thought it'd be easier just to show you guys. And I'll get back to this on here. Versus just the journey that you can put together and share, that it's not just one before and one after. Here we go.
That we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Be thankful for what you are now and keep fighting for what you want to be tomorrow. Remember that there's something inside of you that is stronger than any obstacle. When you have a strong why, your what becomes easy. Far from who I once was, but not yet what I'm going to be. Remember, it's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't, everybody would do it. Go.
Okay, so anyway, so you guys saw that. So the point of that is, sorry about that. What just happened? No, hang on. Okay. The point of showing you guys that is that, there's journeys, there's stuff that's in between. Sorry. Okay, there we go. There's stuff that we we have to encounter along the way. There's in-betweens, there's twists and turns, and it's not always going to happen all at once. So I want to make sure you guys can see me, because for some reason.
We're good. We can see it. I can see it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just can't see your lovely faces right now. So, okay, I'll just, for some reason I lost your face. But, so that was the physical part of it. And I just want to encourage you guys to share something, to take pictures every week and put something like that together and look at it. Look at it for yourself, not just for your audience, because it's going to blow you away to see where you started. And it's going to blow people away to see that it's not just like, you know, it's not just, oh, here I was, you know, and I always share this first picture was 4 years ago. But I think it's important for people to see the in-betweens. And again, I don't want to, if somebody doesn't have pounds to lose, that is not the only transformation. So I just want to make that kind of out there. But just chronicle your transformation you're working on in some way. Whether it's, you know, maybe you're trying to beat depression, or maybe you're trying to, you know, get stronger, or you're trying to be more optimistic. Chronicle that some way. You know, find a way to capture that, whether, you know, and find a way to show your progress, because I think that's going to be so powerful for people to see. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys this. And again, let me just go ahead and, you know, this is recorded. I have to do the disclaimer. Beachbody does not guarantee level of success or income from the Team Beachbody opportunity. Every coach's income depends on his or her own efforts, diligence, skill. Statement of independent coach earnings is found in the back office. There. So that for legal. Okay, so here is something I think it's important. This is something I shared with my team, and I don't share income often, but it's just something that I think has been important for me to realize too. So I was looking back on my journey on when I first started in July 12, and my first month was zero. You know, month 3 I made $146. I achieved Emerald. Month 9, 605. Month 10, 566. I was working as a full-time social worker also, you guys, just so you know, through January 2014. So all this time I was working full-time, working my business at about an hour and a half a day. Month 12, 900. Month 18, 1,045. Month 21, 2,000. Achieved 1 star. Month 25, achieved 2 star. Opened second, not CBS, second business center. Month 30, you know, I started adding, and I didn't include my husband's stuff here too, so these numbers are slightly off, but second business center, 2,099. Month 36, 4,220 plus 402 in second business center. Month 41, 2,365 plus 259 in second CBC and start and bonus, etc. And then month 44. So I share this because, you know, wherever you are, you know, in your journey, in your fitness, and this is not to say, whoa, but this is to say I replaced my income. I was making at most $1,300 every 2 weeks in my social work job with my degree that I'm still paying on for a while now. And so you got to focus on growth. The seasons of coaching, as you know, as I mentioned, the 4 areas of progress, financial. And I think it's important for all of us, and for me, it was important to look at our success is dependent on us. You know, you can't say, oh, I'm on an inside leg, so I'm not going to, you know, I'm going to make this excuse, or I'm on an outside leg, so I don't have to do anything, or I'm not working as hard, or I'm working just as hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could use different examples, or, oh, I don't have the time because I'm working full time. Like, literally, there's so many things that you could throw out there and say, I'm not making progress, or you can look at the beginning and the current. And I encourage everybody to look in their back office and pull their numbers and add it up from the time you started to now. And look at it that way. Look at the progress you've made. When I looked at it this way, I'm like, I replaced my income and then some, and I'm trending upward. And so I share this because sometimes we forget, including myself. I forget. I'm like, man, I'm still paying off debt. I'm still paying off credit card bill, you know? But then I open this and I pull the numbers and I'm like, but look what I was able to do from home. Look what I was able to do by not giving in, not throwing in the towel, not saying, you know, by showing up when one person would show up for me, you know, by giving excellence in everything I do, by saying my son upstairs is my why, and darn it, I'm going to work 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday, now that I'm home full time. But for a good portion of this, I worked an hour and a half a day. Monday through Friday and weekends to put some hours in and consistently. So that's the areas of progress financial. I think sometimes when people quit or give up, or they think, oh, it's winter, so it must not be meant to be, I better just move somewhere else, jump ship to somewhere else, you get the idea, is because they don't see that progress is still progress, however slow it may seem in their minds. So, so I want to challenge you to look at a visual and look at this and look back and just realize that everybody starts the same way with 0 people, with themselves, and literally you can build this to whatever you want, and there's no ceiling. But look at how far you've come. Even if it's $50 a month that you're making, that's $50 you weren't making before. So super important to focus on the areas of progress versus how far else you have to go. And what I thought was so cool about this visual was that it may seem like, wow, it took you 4 years to do that. But here's what I shared with my team. I was a social worker for 15 years. For 11 years, I was at the same agency. I never got a raise like I did in the 4 years, this much of an increase, okay? I did not get a raise like that in the whole 11 years I worked in one agency, okay? So I basically gave myself a raise by working hard, by building a team, by investing in people. So in 4 years, and really just 3 years, because really that's when I started really hitting it hard, I've been able to do this. And so think of it that way. You put in time, you put in effort, you put in consistency, and you're going to see results, and you're going to give yourself a raise much faster than, dare I say, I can't speak for every profession, but than a lot of professions would give a raise in sometimes 10 years. So when you think of it that way and reframe it a little bit, it kind of makes you look at things differently. Like, wow, that's a small price to pay for $39.95, or the cost of a challenge pack I invested, to know that I can grow something meaningful from home and have more flexibility with my family or whatever your goals are. So, I just wanted to show you guys that, talking about the business consistency, which is the next pillar. Again, oftentimes people, and I've got busy coaches that are even busier than me. Abby owns her own gym. Brittany works several jobs. Ashley is a teacher. I mean, there's many people who are very, very busy, and they make this work. I've got an attorney who works 50 hours and has hit Success Club, 6 or 10 in the last few months repeatedly. And so there's examples of people who, no matter how busy you are, you can make this work if you make it a priority. So the consistent part of this is that it's got to be daily, non-negotiables. We hear this a lot, but as I was thinking about what has worked for me to weather all my seasons, is to do my due diligence every day. At least, I always tell my coaches, at least 1 hour a day, 5 to 6 days a week, more if you want to grow faster. As I said, I do 3 now because I'm home doing this. But reframe everything. Remember that failure is the learning experience. Fear equals excitement. Give yourself grace and permission to get messy. And do the math. Again, just like showing you guys that visual and showing myself that visual helped me see things in perspective. I think understanding that if we're inviting every day, 60 invites, 10% success rate, 6 say yes, 54 say no. Again, it's consistency. And realizing that we got to have tough skin. People are going to say no. We got to ride the roller coaster. But the bigger you swing, the more momentum you build. So, I invite 5 to 10. I follow up. I add 10, and then your success rate goes up. So oftentimes when people start feeling like this isn't for them, I've seen is they're not being consistent, and they're wondering, or they think they're being consistent, but they're really not being consistent. And so again, it's just about, and I've had to do this at times too, to self-evaluate and say, am I really being consistent? If I really want my income to grow, if I really want to hit Success Club 20 or whatever, am I really talking to enough people? So it's a constant reframing and asking yourself, are my actions meeting my intentions? And being honest with ourselves, because really that's as simple as it gets. So those are the areas of progress. Always be consistent in your business. You're going to hear this. I know you're like, it's not a vital behavior talk, but honestly, I find the more I'm in this business, the more it comes down to really the vital behavior consistency talk. So I'm sharing what has been meaningful for me and my team. And then the last pillar is, I love this, it's the mindset consistency. So we know it's a personal development, but oftentimes when you feel like you're off your game with your business, you feel like that because you basically aren't pouring into yourself, right? Your bucket is empty. I know that's the case for me. So I love this quote. When you develop yourself to the point where you believe in yourself so strongly that you know you can accomplish anything you put your mind to, your future will be unlimited. I was like, wow, that's powerful. And I love that. I love that we work for a company that tells us to develop ourselves emotionally and personally, you know, and so it's hard sometimes. When we try to develop ourselves, we get uncomfortable because we have to face demons or skeletons or different things that we might not be ready to face. And so I want you to be aware that when that happens, that means that you should push past that point, and that on the other side is a breakthrough of some sort. But it's only going to help you do that if you move past that by continuing and not stopping short. So that's the other pillar, is just mindset consistency. I love Audible. I know a lot of you guys do too. I listen to several books right now, and I'm going to give you some of my favorites. But every day I start with devotional and personal development. And I notice when I do everything I do is kind of built on that platform of investing in my mindset. Some of my favorite books are Start by John Acuff. And I'm going to share an awesome quote at the end with you guys that was a game changer for me. Unqualified by Stephen Furtick. Greater by Stephen Furtick. The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy. And Compound Effect. Girl Code, which I love right now. I'm listening to on Audible. Failing Forward by John Maxwell. It's Your Time by Joel Osteen. Power by Am. Start with Why by Simon Sinek. That's a great leadership book. Building Your Network Marketing Business. Anything by Jim Rohn is my jam. You can get that on YouTube. You can just type that in. And it's a 1-hour audio, and it's the first personal development I've ever listened to, and it changed my perspective of this business. He's amazing. And then, not Draying, but Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And then I want to leave you guys with this before I share this awesome quote with you guys. You know, you hear Mindy Wonder, you hear all these coaches say, be here in a year. But you know what? I always tell myself, be here in 10 years. And I'm always reminding myself and my coaches, be here, not just in a year. But that's what you got to be in the mind frame every year. Like, I'm going to be here. Reframe everything. Remember, turn fear into excitement. Failure is an opportunity for learning and growth. Do, and the confidence will follow. That's my thing right there. It's like, who cares if you're scared crap? Let's just do it anyway. And stuff is going to just start feeling natural. You do it enough, you can't help but get better at it. First, you're going to feel like, you know, especially if we've fallen off sometimes, it feels like you're starting over. You get better at it the more you do it. Don't wait for that confidence to happen first, because it may never happen, but doing so invites the confidence to follow behind. So for every 10 people, again, you invite one will say yes. Again, it's not anything you haven't heard 20,000 times before, but I think it's worth mentioning. And the more no's, the more seeds planted, the more follow-ups, the more momentum is gained. And then consistency leads to competence and confidence. So I want to go ahead and just get back to, how the heck do I get back to, how do I get back to see you guys? I'm like confused. Okay, let me, back to meeting. How do I do that? Ha, I see you guys. Okay, sorry, I'm so sorry. Okay, and I just wanted to share this one thing with you guys. This is from Start, and it literally, if you don't write anything down, just write this down. But I read this and I was like, this is my life. This is our life. This is what happens when you want to better yourself. So it's from Start. He says, fear and doubt will leave you alone. However, with the first step you take on the road to awesome, fear and doubt stir from its slumber. The moment the purpose door creaks on its hinges and you push it open, the pointy ears of fear and doubt perk up. Continue on the road to awesome, and fear and doubt whisper confusing statements meant to get you back to the average safe path. And I thought, holy freaking crap, if that is not the truth of what we do here, because as soon as you get better, the devil, if you believe in that, I do, you know, I believe that God has a purpose for us, and I believe in that, and I feel like whenever we better ourselves, we confuse that little fear and doubt as, oh, it must not be meant to be, but it's just fear and doubt perking up its ears saying, nope, it's safer to be safe, sit down. And so I loved that. And I like wrote it down and I shared it with my team and I like listened to it over and over again. So we don't want to get back to the average safe path. Average safe path is really just the two fear and doubt dogs whispering. Not that I don't love dogs. I love them, but whispering, telling you sit down or I'm going to like knock you down. And so we can't listen to that. So anyway, that's all I have. So if you guys have any questions, let me know.
Mannie, that was so good. I'm sorry if you guys saw Tenley popping in and out, but seriously, like these are things that even I need to hear because guys, every single coach has those moments. We have those doubts. We have those fears. You can ask Kirk probably once a month. I'm like, like going off about something. And he's got to reel me back in. And we got to start focusing on other things. I think sometimes, like Mannie said, we focus so much on the income going up that it's like we're missing all of these ahas around us. These people who maybe are inspiring another coach to get off their booty and start working out or restart their business or do something, and it's a coach on another team. That's still an aha right there. Or your customers coming to you and saying, my husband just commented on how great my booty's looking or something like that. Those are the things that I think we forget are like the important stuff to focus on. When you're focusing on those things, all of a sudden the income and everything else goes up because you're focusing on the right things. So Mannie, this was amazing. There's something else I wanted to say. Oh, first and foremost, when you were looking at Mannie's income, you guys, she's built that entirely by herself. Unfortunately, when she signed up, she fell into an inside leg. So she's completely built that by herself with her team. So that's even more inspiring knowing that because they've built that together, which is freaking cool. Like I was like, oh man, that's freaking awesome. That's amazing. Okay. And the other thing is, like I said, we all have those lulls. We all have those moments where it's like, man, like I don't even know how to pull myself out of it, whether it be your mindset or your eating or your fitness or just focusing on the business side of stuff. We all have those moments, but the fact that you guys are diamond and above leaders, you have to learn how to pull yourself out. I know that when I'm getting to that kind of mindset, like Mannie said, I go and I turn on personal development. I know that that's my happy place, whether it be Joel Osteen, whether it be Stephen Furtick, whether it be, Craig Holliday, someone who speaks to your soul that can pull you out of that, okay? Because as a leader, that's important for you to do, okay? Or you're going to let that roller coaster and you're going to jump off, okay? And at this point right now where Country Heat's about to launch, you don't want to jump off. This is a time, summer's usually slower, guys. It's true. Summer's slower for fitness. It's true. We're about to come back up the hill though. And if you're hopping off right now and you're checked out of your business, you're going to miss that wave up. Okay. So make sure that you are getting yourself back to that happy place and refocusing on the basics. I think sometimes we get so overwhelmed with everything else going on. Like Mannie said, all the different trainings that are going on, feeling like we're missing something, comparing ourselves to other people, whether they have a blog or that amazing Snapchat or Twitter or something, and you're like, oh, I'm missing out on something. I'm missing out. Go back to the basics, guys. Go back to what was working for you before because I guarantee it's going to work again, okay? And just setting goals. I mean, I think everyone mostly is going to Summit. And if you're not going to Summit, make sure you're watching the live stream. Make that a priority, guys, because you're still going to get some of that feeling that these coaches are getting at Summit. And what happens at Summit for everyone who goes is you're reborn in your business. Even 7 years into the business, you guys, I need this. I'm looking forward to going to Summit because it's like I need it in my heart to refocus on my goals and refocus on everything that I want to do, So make sure that you don't miss out on that. And the last thing that I want to make sure I mention is, like I said, the launch of the Country Heat is going on. If you're someone who doesn't like country music or you don't like dancing, you're missing out. Like, don't let that be the one thing that says, no, I'm not going to do this program because I really don't like country music. You might not like it, but what if there's a huge wave of people on your page that like it? And every single person that I've pushed to do the sneak peeks that are like, oh, I really don't like country music, they text me and are like, you know what, that was really fun. It was really fun to do that. And I made a fool of myself and I have people interested. Really? Really? Okay. You don't want to miss this, you guys, because like I said, as Mannie was saying at the beginning with the roller coaster, I absolutely loved that picture. It's perfect. It's like dead on right there. I was like, yep, I remember those. I remember that. Yep, still go through it. You're going to miss that way back up. Okay. And you don't want to be that coach that's still stuck at the bottom of the hill saying, gosh, how do I get myself out of this? Country heat is your thing right here. Okay. So I want everyone who's on this call, I want you to make sure that you are pushing that launch. Okay. If you don't have an event set up, that's okay. Today's Thursday. We still have time. It launches on Wednesday, I think, right? Yeah. So open the event today. Open the event. Okay. Put up a picture about it. Start sharing about it today. You still have time. You still have time, even though maybe people started talking about it months ago, you can still catch up, okay? You're not late. Just get on it now. So does anyone have any questions? Anything? I feel like it was so thorough. I know it was touching Nicole and Jamie because I saw them commenting in the group.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And even your video, like that was great. Oh, I know. Okay, we were asking what app did you use to do that?
Oh, the presentation?
Yeah. No, not the presentation. Your little video.
Video. Splice app. I usually use Video Shop for all my videos, but I have an Android, so I have to do it on my iPad. So, but anyway, Alyssa did an awesome video. I think she shared in the group. And I was like, that was wonderful. What is it? So it was like Splice app. Don't just type in Splice because it's going to give you something else. But I did it on my iPad. It was super easy. And you could like put background music to it and your own voiceover. Super user-friendly.
Yeah, I thought that was really powerful. That was so powerful with you reading the quote behind it. I was like, wow, like that's good. Oh, my little baby. Sorry. So guys, awesome job, Mannie. I can't wait to see you in just a couple days. I know it's crazy. I'm going to turn off.
Thank you so much.